we can go through it in very detail. Um, so without taking much time, just because we have a lot, not so much time left, I'll go through my presentation. I'll leave some room, like for about 5 to 10 minutes at the end of this presentation for any Q&A. And of course, after me, Kartikeya will take over and he will talk about some of the AWS programs for startups. So, yeah. So we'll. So first of all, what is cloud computing? So a cloud computing refers to on-demand delivery of IT resources over internet with the pay-as-you-go pricing model, right? So when I say IT resources, that could be your compute, your storage, your databases, your networking, or any other IT services. For example, AI and machine learning as a service. Those are the IT resources we're talking about. When I say pay-as-you-go pricing, it's based on your consumption, just like your electricity bill, right? So you only pay for what you consume. If you turn off the light, you stop billing for that. It's a very similar model when it comes to cloud computing. AWS is a pioneer in cloud computing. It has massively built low-cost infrastructure in the cloud, and it caters to millions of customers over 190 countries in the world. If you look at the services that are offered by AWS, it has over 180 services, and as of today, and it keeps growing, right? So what are the main advantages? Why should you move to the cloud, right? So first thing, especially for as you guys as a startup, why should you move to the cloud, right? Some of the benefits we can talk about are the low cost. Here we are not provisioning. You don't spend your time on procuring your own servers, installing them, creating your data centers, things like that. But rather you are replacing that capex with a low cost variable expense, right? You start small. You only pay for what you consume, and if it is not working out, you just shut it down and change the course of direction and take a new path, right? That is more agile. That provides more agility for your business, meaning that you can experiment more, and you can without spending huge amount of dollars, right? So that's the agility that a typical cloud provider brings in. AWS, as you know, is a leader in that space. So when I talk about elasticity, as I said, you start small, and as your business grows, as your customer base grows, you expand your servers footprint and your business based on how popular your product is, right? And faster innovation. When I talk about faster innovation, as you will see throughout this presentation, AWS offers you tons of services that you can quickly incorporate into your applications and add more services at a rapid pace. That what it also means is a faster time to market and faster innovation. So you can experiment more. You can focus on the things that value most for your business, rather than focusing on undifferentiated heavy lifting tasks such as provisioning of the infrastructure and servers and so on. Plus, as you will see in the presentation, the global reach, right? So you can literally deploy thousands of servers with a single click of a button throughout the world. So you can go global in minutes, and that's what the cloud provider like AWS will bring into your business. Now, let's look at some of the basics of AWS. So for that, you actually need to understand how the global infrastructure that AWS has, right? So the first fundamental thing that you need to know is in AWS, we define something called regions. A region is nothing but a geographical area where we have what we call something like availability zones. An availability zone is nothing but a cluster of data centers which are physically that are part of the same region, right? So within the max distance between availability zone in a particular region is not more than 100 kilometers, right? So and within the availability zone, there may be a cluster of data centers that will be residing. So We also have something called CloudFront point of presence. What it means is you are taking your application and data close to your customers, right? So there is a CloudFront distribution points across the globe, which means that provides your applications and data at a very low latency speeds. For example, Netflix, for example, how are you able to realize if the entire content is hosted on let's say US, you'll have a lot of latency in getting your video stream, right? So the way they address the problem, which is what I mean, the solution is provided by AWS, is they can cache the content in CloudFront points of presence, and from there it will be distributed to the end user. So that provides a low latency access to your content as well as data. How are we able to realize this low latency? Because all the regions, availability zones, and and the CloudFront distributions are interconnected by redundant, fault-tolerant networks, which has network speeds of 100 GB. So even if it is redundant, because just in case a link has to get cut, nothing will be broken, right? So they have redundant lines between the regions and availability zones throughout the globe, right? So what is this global infrastructure bringing you here, right? So this ensures that your applications are highly available. Think about the experience of a user when they say the server is down, please try after some time, right? So you have a high chance that the customers move away from your application if you keep repeating it. So that's why high availability within your application is extremely important, and this global infrastructure footprint that AWS has, and the way the availability and availability zones as well as regions are created will help you achieve high availability in your applications, right? Let's say one availability zone is completely down, the traffic can be routed to the other availability zone which are in the same region. So that way your any customers will not be impacted at all. Now, we'll look at the breadth of services that breadth and depth of services that AWS has to offer. AWS is present in pretty much any service that you can think of, be it a machine learning, IoT, blockchain, security and compliance, infrastructure, mobile, analytics, anything, right? So what powers at the core of the services that AWS has to offer is called what we have core services. That includes your compute, storage, and other set of core services, networking and other stuff. There are a set of management tools, and within each area of expertise, for example, machine learning, as you will see through the presentation, there are tons of services that AWS has. As of this time, we have over 180 services, and the list keeps growing. So in addition to the set of services that AWS has to offer, we have a dynamic and most vibrant partner network. So these partner network build solutions around AWS ecosystem, and they help customers throughout the world to create solutions for them and to help them in their cloud journey, right? Another powerful feature within the AWS ecosystem is the AWS marketplace, where there are third-party system integrators and independent software vendors who host their solutions on the marketplace, so that as a customer, you can directly take the solutions off the shelf from the marketplace, try it out. If it's not working, just pay for what you already consume, and just get it in one single consolidated bill. An example for that is if you want to try out, let's say, Tableau, right? So you don't have to provision the Tableau license and install it on your AWS machine, but rather you can take that Tableau AMI, or as we call it, Amazon machine image, from the AWS marketplace, try it out, and if it works, yeah, fine. You can directly use the what you already provisioned, or you can procure the license. But if it won't work for you, then you just have to shut down your AMI. That's all, and you stop you'll be stopped billing the moment you stop it, right? So that's the so you on AWS Marketplace you can try out different third-party applications and see if they are that make any sense to you. So one of the core service that we thought was the compute platform, and as a goal, we want to provide a world-class computing platform for literally any workload that you can think of, right? So we have Amazon EC2, ECS for managed container services, EKS for managed Kubernetes service, as well as Forget for serverless container management. And of course, there is a variant of compute called AWS Lambda. We'll just look at it in little more detail. So at this juncture, I would like to show you the AWS console, right? Rather than just talking, we can actually see, right? So if I had to procure a AWS instance, for example, an EC2 instance is nothing but a virtual server on the cloud, right? So if I have to procure it, what we are going to see is called the AWS console. On the AWS console, it's a matter of a couple of clicks to be able to provision your server and host your applications, right? So if I look at the service called talking about the breadth of services, as you can see, across all different kinds of use cases, we have tons of services, and this list keeps growing all the time, right? For example, if I look at EC2, which is nothing but a virtual servers on the cloud, I'm running 2 instances, and if I have to provision an additional instance, all it takes is a couple of clicks, right? When I try to launch an EC2 instance, I have a choice of options, right? Whether I should choose a Linux or a Mac OS. Mac OS is one of the latest addition to the list of EC2 instances that you can do, right? And after I select my choice of instance, I have an option to provision whether I want my instance to be used for memory-intensive workloads, compute-intensive workloads, networking-intensive workloads. For example, if I have to use it for analytics, it's a very compute-intensive, right? So I can pick to choose what instance type I have to provision. We have a whole suite of instance types. If the instance has to host, let's say, a database, it should be memory optimized, right? So you can pick the memory optimized instance in that case. So you have a tons of choices that you can pick from, and you can even also select what size of instance type that you want. Let's say I pick a compute optimized instance. I can also pick what is the IOPS speed that I need for this, right? So it's just a couple of clicks that you have to do in order to provision your instance. Now, go back to the presentation. So what we just saw is EC2 instances. An EC2 instance is nothing but a virtual server instance in the cloud, right? So we just saw that there may be many categories of these EC2 instances. It could be compute intensive, memory intensive, and of late we have been using a lot of GPUs, especially after the explosion of ML machine learning use cases and things like that, right? So depending upon what your use case is, you have a choice of categories of instances that you can pick from. You can pick what architecture of that your processor has, right? Whether it follows the Intel architecture, AMD architecture, and AWS has its own processor type, which is called Graviton, which has about a 40% improvement in the price to cost performance. And we can pick what kind of process that you want, whether you want a fast processor, whether you want a huge memory footprint or not. So these are the various options that you can pick and choose from. Plus, you can also pick what kind of storage you want to attach to your EC2 instances. So the combination of all these things, you have more than 275 instance types, and so we can work with you to see what for your workload. what kind of instance better fits. Right. So as far as the cost is concerned, we want our customers to run their infrastructure at a cheaper thing. Right. It's quite counterintuitive that, but we believe in long-term relationships, and we believe that if the customer is successful, they will come back to us. Right. So that's why we have a choice of options that to reduce your costs. Right. So for example, if your workload is very spiky, then you pay by the second, and there is no long-term commitments. That is called an on-demand option. But if it is like a savings, spot instances is one of the variant of the on-demand, where we use the spare capacity within the EC2 service. You actually have to place a request for spot instances. If that is approved, which means that some of the spare capacity within the AWS EC2 service can be assigned to your workloads, and that will bring up that will save up to 90% of your costs. So typical workloads, like for example stateless workloads and workloads that could be easily be restarted, things like that, they can be hosted on spot instances, which with the huge cost savings. Okay. Similar in between is savings plan. If you with the commitment that you will be using this for you'll be using this compute for some period of time, so you get as great discounts, and that is what savings plan talks about. Right. So the reason why I'm talking all about this is you have the flexibility, and even if your choice is to save costs, depending upon the types of workloads that you are hosting on EC2 instances, you have the option to pick various pricing plans. Now, with the as the world is moving towards the microservices architecture, containers are the buzzwords that is used throughout the industry today, and most of the workloads today now run on containers. So a container is a lightweight standalone piece of software that you can move around between your EC2 instances. So a container comes with its own code, runtime, and things like that, and it will be typically hosted on a machine. So an EC2 instance hosts different sets of containers. You can pick and choose what containers to run where, how many instances of these containers runs, and so on. Right. So AWS provides a managed container service that's called ECS, which will put its own agent on the EC2 instance and manage the containers running on the EC2 instances. Right. You also have something, a serverless option for the container management called AWS Forget. So when you're using a serverless option like Forget, you don't have to worry about creating the EC2 instances underlying and host your containers on it, but rather AWS as a managed service will take care of it. So you don't have any new instances to manage. Plus, you define your container definition using a task native API, and you pay only for the consumption. So that will create a very powerful consumption model for your applications. I know I'm skimming through this very fast, but I just want to give you the an overview of different compute options that you have available within AWS. So we can obviously deep dive if you are interested in a specific topic. So the AWS serverless portfolio is not just limited to compute. It expands across many of the services like compute, storage, databases, analytics, and even the edge computing, which is gaining a lot of momentum in the of late, right? So with concepts like inference at edge, right? You want your end devices, for example, a camera that is sitting on your store, to analyze, to recognize the people or recognize the items that the typical consumer is purchasing, and so on, right? So that is the edge computing use cases that is gaining a lot of traction of late. And they can be completely built on top of a AWS serverless offering. So the next core service we are going to talk about is the storage, right? So in storage, the typical things that we will be talking about are EBS. So EBS is nothing but a storage, a block storage that will be attaching to your EC2 instance. And the life of the EBS is independent of the EC2 instance. So you can disconnect this link between the EBS block as well as your EC2 instance and manage the life cycles independently. Okay, so that way you can move this EBS volume to any of your EC2 instance. There are a variety of use cases that you will be able to handle, right? The next object storage class is an object storage, where S3 is one of the main service that AWS has to offer, and it is one of the most popular service. With an object store like S3, you host your assets, like it could be an Excel sheet, it could be a CSV, it could be image, it could be a video or whatever, right? So you just upload that your object into S3, and you'll be able to define your lifecycle methods on the objects. For example, if it is like a very frequently used, you could make it as you could store that in a frequently accessed tier. And S3 is designed for 11 nines of durability and 9 nines of availability, right? There is no way you will lose your object that you host on S3, right? There are companies which host their websites on static websites on S3, and those are accessible over internet, right? One of the we really have to talk about how AWS innovates in this space, especially when it comes to cost saving, right? So AWS defines multiple access tiers for S3, right? For example, if you're not using your object very frequently, you could move that. You could define a lifecycle method to move your object from a frequently accessed tier to an infrequently accessed tier, and you can save costs in it, right? So similarly, if let's say if you are intending to use this object for a long-term storage, then you could move it to a much cheaper storage option, which is your archiving store called Amazon Glacier. Okay, all of this you can do, for example, defining a lifecycle methods and things like that. You can do it in the console, in the same console that we saw earlier, right? You could even automate this process if you can use the programmatic SDKs and do it without your intervention at all. Now, talking about the databases, so typically the most popular databases are RDBMS, which is relational in nature, and some of the commercial offerings. Oracle is a very popular database, SQL Server. Yeah, the commercial offerings are very good. They are highly performant, and but what the problem with these commercial offerings is they come with a huge lock-in period as well as a high license costs, right? Well, on the other end of the spectrum, you have a community database offerings like MySQL, PostgreSQL, MongoDB, or MariaDB, right? So those are community softwares. You don't have to pay license for it, but they lack the features that a commercial database has, right? So Amazon took this problem and they built this service called Aurora, right, where they took the best parts of both worlds, right? So it is built on Aurora version of MySQL, for example, has commercial grade features of Oracle and SQL Server, and because there is no license cost associated with it, it is significantly cheaper to use Aurora than a commercial off-the-shelf database like Oracle. Similar to that, you have different types of databases that you can use. We just saw the relational family of databases. You can have key value stores, you have in-memory data stores. DynamoDB is one of the very popular database which provides a low latency data access, right? So sub-millisecond access to your data, irrespective of the size of your database. So as you know, like as your database grows, your queries becomes costly. But in a key value document store, it has a predictable latency and it is sub-millisecond. Okay, so it is very useful. There are many gaming use cases that are built on top of DynamoDB. Similar to that, we have a graph database, you have time series database, and you have a ledger database. There are many more. There are about 15 types of databases that AWS offers. All these can be provisioned with the same console that I just showed earlier. So you just have to go back and pick the appropriate, for example, RDS. The wizard will guide you how to provision any of these options, right? Now, another important thing when it comes to security is, when it comes to cloud is security, right? Typically, there may be many questions among the enterprises and the startups. Is the cloud secure enough, right? So at AWS, we take security very seriously. And in fact, majority of our customers believe that AWS security posture is much efficient than what they have to do if they have to host their all the things in their own data centers. If, for example, if you're in a highly regulated industries like financial, healthcare, and things like that, right? There are tons of compliance requirements that you have to follow, right? For example, if you are using a credit card processing use case, you have to be compliant with PCI DSS kind of regulation, right? So all the services that AWS has to offer are compliant to major compliance requirements, right? So and with when we talk about security, as a customer, you have the fine-grained control over what resources each user has to within your organization has, right? For example, I can say that Krishna can only provision an MT2 type instance in the Mumbai region and all, right? So so that I don't have the privilege or the control to access other resources that within my organization. So this level of final control is extremely important as your organization grows, so that you can control your costs, right? And of course, we talked about the compliance certifications and accreditations, things like that. So AWS has more compliance certifications than any other cloud provider. The next use case we are going to talk about is the artificial intelligence and machine learning use case. This is the area that is growing of late a lot, and majority of your applications are differentiated by how intelligently they can provide recommendations to your end users and things like that, right? So if you look at the AWS machine learning stack, we have three different layers, I would say. The first layer is the bottom layer, right? So if you're familiar with the frameworks that are used in the machine learning world, the most popular ones are the TensorFlow, MXNet, PyTorch, and things like that, right? So if you are an experienced developer and a data scientist, you have the flexibility to mix and match the frameworks at this level, and also provision the GPUs and CPUs that are needed for your use cases, right? This layer is for very advanced users of machine learning. The middle layer is for developers who can quickly ramp up to build machine learning models, right? So we have at this layer we have SageMaker that provides a set of tools and an integrated development environment where you can in one IDE you will be able to build your models, deploy them, experiment it, and see how the inference is working. You can also model the monitor. One of the key things that SageMaker has to provide is the AutoML, so which will take decisions on your behalf when creating your machine learning models, right? So at the top of the stack is for people who don't have a lot of knowledge about the machine learning stack, right? For example, they want to build a recommendation engine into their e-commerce website, right? So there is a service called Amazon Personalized that will help them to integrate recommendation engine into their applications with not a lot of heavy coding, right? So these are the pre-built models, literally across vision. Vision, for example, if you want to add computer vision to your application. So, for example, you take a picture of one object and you want to recognize what it is, right? So that is the computer vision use case. AWS has a service for that recognition, and in order to use recognition, you don't have to know anything at all for computer vision or the object recognitions, right? Those are all abstracted for you, and that model can be directly deployed into your application. And for text to speech, speech to text, transcription, all these use cases can be added to your application. Personalization we just spoke about, where you can give personalized recommendations for your users. For forecasting, fraud detection, all those services can be added to your applications with minimum coding. So the next one is about creating mobile applications. So we have this service called Amplify, which will help you to create web applications and mobile applications at scale, and they will cater to pretty much all the mobile OS that you can think of, right? So with Amplify framework, it will provide you the option to create the services, right? For example, an authentication service, a data store. You can use the AWS Amplify CLI to quickly create these These are all the backend services. For example, if you want to add predictions to your mobile applications, with CLI you create a prediction backend, and that can be integrated using SDK into your mobile applications. Plus, the Amplify also provides a set of UI libraries that you can use to integrate into your application. Oh, I'm way past the time. I'm almost at the end of my presentation. So when we talk about of late, there is a concept of data lakes, right? Data lakes and analytics. So typically, when we talk about an analytics solution, you have a data warehouse in the middle, and which is relational in nature. So you have your other organizational systems that feed into this into the data warehouse, and you have tools, business intelligence tools like Tableau and things like that, that can generate some analytic reports out of it, right? So the best it can scale is up to petabytes, right? But off late, this is not enough, right? So you have your mobile device, your devices, for example, your sensors that are deployed on the field, your user interactions that are coming from your web applications, and your social media data. Those are not relational in nature. So they are non-relational, if I can call it, right? And there's so much data that is generated out today. Even petabytes is not enough, right? So we're talking about an exabyte scale. So that data will be kept in the native format in the data lake, and you have not just a business intelligence tool, but rather different kinds of analytic systems that can work on your data, right? So for example, this big data processing engines, real-time recommendations based on the user action, and sentiment analysis. For example, if I get a call to my call center saying talking about a customer problem, there are the customers who are doing the sentiment analysis real time and taking the appropriate course of action, right? So these are the now the new norms for your data for your analytics systems, right? Yeah, I'm way past the time, so I don't want to take further. So sorry about that. I didn't realize that it's already past half an hour. So the reason why I touched upon all these things is just to give you an overview on what are the different kinds of use cases that you can build for your business and get started on AWS. So if you want to see a specific solution There are tons of solutions that were documented in a website, aws.amazon.com/solutions. You will find typically a lot of solutions that are being documented. You can refer to them and easily get started. If you have a specific use case, you would like to go deep with us, we'll be happy to help. And I will stop now and hand it off to Devendra.
Thank you, Krishna. Very insightful, very knowledgeable session. So we'll move on to the next part of this session where Kartikeya will talk about offerings by AWS, how startups can benefit from services offered by AWS. Kartikeya, over to you.
Thanks, Devendra. I'm just trying to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks. Thanks, Krishna, for the overview of all the services that we have in AWS. Right, it's fine. It took a little bit more time because it is really difficult to cover so many services in such a short time, right? So any of you, if you have, like Krishna pointed out, if you have any doubt, you can always reach out to us post a session and we'll be happy to answer any particular questions that you may have. I'll take the next 10 to 15 minutes to walk you through what we do as a part of the VC and startup ecosystem team and the kind of programs we run to essentially support your startup's growth, right? After that, we'll leave some time for Q&A as well. So I'm a part of the startup BD team at AWS. We're 250 people strong across the globe, and we have coverage in almost every country across the globe, right? We're a team of exited founders or ex-VCs. Me, for example, I was working for a venture capital fund before this. We essentially leverage our network and the experience in this industry to really work with each and every startup and help them scale based on any particular help that they need, right? So we, as a part of the team, we work with venture capital firms, accelerators, incubators, government organizations who are doing anything to support startups, right? So we work with some of the top incubators and VC firms like 500 Startups, Vicom, Techstars. In India, we work with Sequoia, Accels of the world. We really work with on-the-ground incubators and accelerators as well. We work with a lot of universities as well to support very, very nascent and early stage startups. So that we are able to provide such support to you right from day one. That's our motto as well. So what we do and what we don't do is we don't invest capital in your company. We don't take any equity position as well. So you might be thinking, then what does AWS get out of it, right? Why are we putting in so many credits? Why are we putting in so many resources and programs to help you, right? The reason why we do something like that is we want to partner with you on your journey. We want to make sure when you're scaling up, we are there to support you through this journey, right? What we do is we provide credits, which are actual dollar amount of credits that we put into your startup. So that if you're building anything cool, if you're building anything nice, right, which is tech oriented, where AWS can come and support you, we'd be more than happy to do that. We leverage our network and connects in the VC and startup ecosystem industry to really connect the dots for you in any area that you may want, right? We pool in resources such as Krishna, who's a solutions architect, me as a part of the BD team. We have account managers who work with startups on a day-to-day basis across any kind of help that you may need, right? This is kind of an overview of the programs that we run as a part of the startup ecosystem team. We work, like I mentioned, we work with startups right from a very nascent stage to their growth stage. For example, you might be a company which is just in the POC or ideation stage. We would be happy to work with you there as well. And we would be happy to work with companies which are, for example, Series D, Series E, or are looking for some sort of growth moving into a new geography. Since the startup BD team has team members across the globe, we can make that happen for you as well, right? So this is a snapshot of the programs that we have as a part of the team. I will walk you through all of them one by one. I wanted to mention a couple of them here. One is AWS Loft. AWS Loft is essentially an area where startups can come and network with each other, right? You can come and brainstorm with any other startup. You can brainstorm with anyone from AWS. There are a lot of trainings that happen at Loft, which you can be a part of. You can have your developers go and be a part of. It's a great networking opportunity into the ecosystem, right? Another thing I wanted to mention here is AWS Marketplace. So AWS Marketplace is somewhat like Amazon Marketplace, but only for AWS customers, right? This is where you can list your products and services, and they're available for anyone in the startup ecosystem, in the entire AWS ecosystem, actually, to come and view, right? They can come and see your services, your products. They can come and get in touch with you. You can get in touch with them. It's an opportunity to work with each other, right? I'll start with AWS Activate. Now, Activate is one of our flagship programs, right? It's probably, I would say, the most popular programs. This is where we start working with startups when they are starting their journey on AWS, right? So, for example, Maharashtra State Innovation Society is an AWS partner. So if you are a startup which is associated with them, you would be able to leverage all these resources, programs, and Activate dollars for your startup, right? So how Activate really helps is you get certain amount of credits for you to build anything that you're building, right? If you're using any AWS services, you can use these credits to nullify the entire cost, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to support you financially when you're just starting out, right? So that you're not really spending on the tech aspect of it, and you're focusing more towards, for example, the marketing side or the growth side, right? If you are a company which is linked to Maharashtra State Innovation Society, you will get $5,000 worth of credits. These credits are valid for 2 years. With this, you also get $1,500 worth of business support credits and $80 worth of training credits, right? These trainings are usually paid, but if you are partnered with an AWS partner, you get an access to these credits, to these training facilities by using these credit amount, right? With AWS Activate, you also get access to AWS Activate Console. This is a one-stop shop for all the help and need that you may need as a startup. This is where you can see all the billing details about your startup. You can see all the credit details. You will have the details of your account manager, a solutions architect. You will further be getting a lot of you'll be getting a lot of recommendations. These are all personalized recommendations that you will be getting in terms of, for example, if there is an industry event happening around your particular industry, you'll get recommendations for that. You'll get recommendations for any AWS-led events or any trainings of that sort, right? Startup Migrate is another program that we run, which is where if you're a company which is, let's say, on-prem, or if you are a company which is hosted on any other cloud platform, we do the entire lift and shift process for you, right? We make sure that we move your entire architecture and workload from there to AWS, right? And this is something that AWS does not charge you anything for, right? The entire thing is paid by AWS, and you further get access to AWS Activate credits post your journey. Solutions architect and design support is something that I touched upon earlier. This is something that you get an access to once you are onboarded on AWS Activate. You get an access to a solutions architect and an account manager. Now, solutions architect is there for any kind of help that you need, tech support that you need, right? For example, you can use a solutions architect for some brainstorming sessions right before a big launch, or you're launching a new particular product, or you're going live. You can always brainstorm with them. They can come in and do an architecture review for you. They can really understand your infrastructure, your workloads, and advise the right AWS services for you to use, right? They will also be able to help you with certain white papers and a lot of knowledge sharing between the two parties, essentially. AWS Business Support is something that you get an access to through AWS Activate. Like I pointed out, you get, for example, through this, you get $1,500 worth of these credits, which you can use for any kind of support or help that you may need. And you can get these supports across email, phone, chat. Our usual SLAs to come back to you if you have a production downtime is less than an hour, and around general guidance, it takes about a day. So cost optimization is something that is really important when you're starting your journey on the cloud. You might be using certain services which are not too useful for you, or maybe you're using a service where you can find a cheaper alternative. This is where the account management team and the solutions architect team really help you optimize your spending on the cloud. We want to make sure that you're not spending more than a dime more than what you should be spending on the cloud, right? So we want to optimize the entire cost. There are instances where, for example, a company may be spending almost 2x than what they should be, right? So this is some of the exercise you should be doing, right? As soon as you get onboarded to AWS Activate, you should have a deep dive call with your account manager and solutions architect. APN is another program that we have. It's a partner network, which is where it's a go-to-market effort between Amazon and the startup, which is where Amazon does a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of selling your products to other ecosystem partners. So you may have a smaller sales team, but the Amazon sales team will, when they're talking to a particular customer and they see your product or service being a fit, they would sell your products and services there as well, right? And you have an APN partner development manager to help you really maximize the kind of benefits you can get out of APN. Plus, you get certain amount of marketing credits to market your product on the platform as well. AWS Connection is also called Enterprise Connect. We have 2 Connect programs as of now at Amazon. One is called Enterprise Connect, which is where we do the speed dating and matchmaking between you and a large-scale enterprise. Now, this large-scale enterprise can also be a Fortune 500 company, which comes to AWS saying that, hey, we have this particular use case and we want you to nominate certain startups who can come and help us on this, right? So we, as a part of the startup BD team, we go back to our preferred partners, startups, and then we nominate companies which we feel would be able to add value. This gives you an opportunity to directly work with a very large-scale enterprise, right, and essentially make them your client. Similarly, we have something called Capital Connect, which is where we do the matchmaking between a startup and a VC or an accelerator or an angel of their choice. This used to be a formal program till last year, but now we do it more as a goodwill for our partners. Outside the AWS ecosystem, there are other programs that are there to help you scale and grow. One of them is called Amazon Launchpad. Amazon Launchpad is something that you might have seen on the .in website, which is a separate section all for startups. So if you're a startup and you have a story to tell, the Amazon Launchpad team would be more than happy to get in touch with you and understand what are you trying to do, how you want to market your product. They will help you market and sell your product on the .in website. Alexa Fund is a $200 million fund, which is where we invest in companies which are doing anything around voice-based technology. So if you're a startup which is doing anything around voice-based technology, or you have anything which can enhance what Alexa is doing right now, the Amazon Alexa team would be more than happy to have a word with you and look at your pitch. Similarly, we have another fund called the Climate Pledge Fund, which is a $2 billion fund, which is where we invest in companies which are doing anything around climate tech, or if you're building anything which can mitigate the risk of climate change or really reduce the risk, or doing anything around sustainability per se. The Climate Pledge Fund team, again, would be very happy to hear your thoughts and look at your pitch. So I think I did it on time. That's about it. More than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Happy to connect with you post the session as well and help you across any of the topics that we have discussed today, right? Getting started is simple. You get an access to certain steps through which you can sign up for AWS Activate and start your journey on the cloud, right? Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kartikeya. Anybody has a question at this point?
I think there are a couple of questions on the chat as well.
Okay.
But these are, how can investors invest in Iron Maiden medical money? It's about 20%. That's more of an investment question, Pradeep.
Yeah, I think that question may be directed to Devendra.
Yeah, we can take it in an investor panel. We do have a session with investors, so we can take that question over there, Mr. Pradeep. So, okay, I guess no questions from the audience. So thanks again. Thanks Krishna and Kartikeya for taking this session. Really, great programs you're running for the startup ecosystem. I'm also interested in the, climate pledge fund you talked about. So I'll get in touch with you for that. We'll be rolling out AWS benefits to our startup ecosystem. So participants, I request you to, keep an eye out on our website and social media handles to, see how can you AWS and MSNS can help you with your cloud journey. Thank you once again, Krishna, Kartikeya. Any closing thoughts?
No, that's it. Thanks a lot, Devendra, for inviting us to speak, especially during the Women's Day week. It was great speaking to all of you. And like Devendra pointed out, Maharashtra State Innovation Society and AWS together, we would be more than happy you in whichever way we can to scale your company. And please do look out for an email for getting started on AWS.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good
Thanks,
weekend,
Devendra.
everyone.
Thanks, Krishna. Thank you.
Bye-bye.